Many times you guys have recommended this book to me because you see what I like, but luckily I have already finished this one. The more you take from this story, the deeper the emotions you're gonna feel. Now this one is like a fantasy detective story, good historical fantasy meets a detective story that is screaming, spooky and gothic vibe. Hi guys, this is Dan. Welcome back to my channel. Can you believe it is nearly the end of 2024 and how is your reading doing in this year? Did you smash your reading goal, read more than you expect, or are you like still chasing after your reading goal? Don't worry, we are all deadline fighters. In today's video, I have handpicked different fantasy books for you to read before the end of 2024. I will try to be more diverse with this recommendation. There will be very classic epic fantasy. There will be historical fantasy or something really different like a mystery. There will be like first book of a series, but most of them will be a standalone at the moment. You can just simply pick anyone you like. I hope I can really do it for you guys. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to my channel Fantasy so you won't miss any new bookish content from me. Why not also recommend me some fantasy books to read? Is there any new favorite that you found in this year? Let me know in the comment. The first one I have is the one that I always want people to read, and it is in a sense the most accessible to get into a new series, and it is The Fall by Ryan Cahill, the first novella of the Bound and the Broken series. Currently this series got 3 novels and 3 novellas, making it there 6 books in total. It is a very classic epic fantasy that is set in a very richly crafted world of Euphoria, blending in with like classic fantasy tropes with fresh twists. There will be intense action scenes and very rich character development. I think overall this series is very immersive too. The characters are also very well written. They are all very complex and we will witness their growth since the beginning of the first book. So we will be very emotionally invested in them and we will literally care about every single one of them. I know that when you see people showing like how many books are there in this series, it could get a bit intimidating because the later books will be quite thick. But I think The Fall, this novella, will be quite a good starting point to test the water. This novella is not long already, so if you like it, you can immediately pick up the first novel. If not, just put the whole series down. Nobody will blame you. This novella actually took place 400 years before the main plot in the first novel, which we are thrown into the peak of battles that is around the Erdenian Empire.
I hope I say it right.
In this short novella, we will follow 4 characters in total and there will be plenty of epic actions, as well as exploring which one is the hero, which one is the evil. We also know roughly about what this world gonna be like in terms of the world building. I find the writing very easy to follow, very accessible as well. When I first picked up this short novella, I didn't expect it's gonna be so intense already, I'm not gonna lie. Also because of this novella, I started my journey of the Bound and the Broken series, and honestly, I will highly recommend this one to you guys if you are into classic epic fantasy. The second recommendation is also an epic fantasy series, which is the first book of the Dandelion Dynasty, The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. I am currently 3 books into this series. There are 4 books in total, and I would say it is like a love-hate relationship. If you're not familiar with this series, it is a Chinese-inspired historical fantasy that is set in the world of Dara. It is roughly based on the Han Dynasty of China, which is roughly 200 BC. What makes this series so special is the technological invention that is based on the ancient China innovation. This kind of named it as silk pun technology, which I find it very amazing to see modern technology to be reimagined, to be reinvented in a fantasy world. This is so rare to see. Back into the series, not talking about these special features. The first book is about the overthrow of a tyrannical empire and spans the rise and fall of kingdoms. There will be exploration of topics like loyalty and power and then like struggles. In here, we mainly follow two rising forces. One is called Kuni and the other one is Mata. Kuni is a bandit, but Mata comes from a noble warrior family. Their alliance topples the emperor, but later leads to a very bitter rivalry because they want to shape this new world in different ways. What I do like about the first book is how can you adopt a Chinese historical period of time and then turn it into a fantasy book. Nearly everything happened in the first book got historical basis. Also, all the characters are very complex and rich. There will be manipulation, there will be mind games, there will be betrayals, there will be epic battles with smart tactics. Epic battles with smart tactics. What did I say? Epic battles with smart tactics. The writing itself could be quite dry, which may not be everyone's cup of tea, but I find the plot so captivating, so sometimes I do forgive the dry writing style of Ken Liu. Also, if you enjoy the first book, great, you can keep exploring this world of Dara. If not, you can just simply treat it as a novel, as a standalone, because I think this book works like this too. Everything will be settled by the end of the first book and you don't have to check the sequel out to see if there's anything missing. The next one I have is also an Asian-inspired fantasy, but this time is a proper standalone. It is Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wang. Many times you guys have recommended this book to me because you see what I like, but luckily I have already finished this one, but still thanks to your recommendation. I actually finished this one probably last Christmas-ish, so when you ask me a book to finish before the end of the year, Sword of Kaigen just popped out from my mind. I think it is great. This one is an East Asian-inspired fantasy that is set in the world of Kaigen, of course, and we mainly follow the Masuda family. Misaki is a wife and a mother who want to erase her past and focus on her role in this patriarchal society. And then we also have her son, Mamoru, who is a teenager that is not ready to discover the truth of this world. With an invasion coming, this Masuda family will lead the people to defend their home, Kaigen. I still remember the beginning of this book is like a historical lesson about the history, about the world building. But then we will step by step with Mamoru to discover the truth, the true history about this world. With this invasion, there will be plenty of intense action scenes with the use of elemental magic. It is so vivid and captivating. It is just action after action, which was like epic. What happened during this invasion just like broke my heart. It was quite intense and emotional. Everyone trying their best, trying their utmost, doing whatever they can within their capability to defend their home. I also appreciate that there is so much exploration about the post-war problems. At the same time, we will find out the other side of the story of this Masuda family, which I found it very clever and elevate the whole story to another level. It was really emotional when we find out the truth. The more you take from this story, the deeper the emotions you're gonna feel. I just find the character work is just exceptional. Given that this one is just a standalone and achieved so much in it, it just makes me want to reread this story, I'm not gonna lie. I do also plan to read other works by M.L. Wang like Blood Over Bright Heaven, I believe it is. And the edition from the Broken Binding is just stunning. I can't wait to get that book. My next recommendation is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. If you don't know, this one is actually coming from his secret project on Kickstarter back 1 or 2 years ago. This one is also a book from the Cosmere, which is a world that Brandon Sanderson has constructed. Many other works by him is also set in this world, but it is like happening on different planets. But don't worry, if you haven't got into the Cosmere, you still can read this one. There will be some minor reference to the Cosmere, but if you haven't read any work in here, don't worry, it's not that significant. Like the title of this book, it is about Yumi and the painter. Yumi is like a priest in her world. She has to follow a lot of strict rules about the rituals and summon the spirits to help people. And then the painter is like a hunter. He would draw bamboo to hunt down all these nightmares. You may be thinking he's doing such a glorious job, but he is in doubt of his purpose. One day, some magical things happen. Yumi and the painter's souls are like connected, and they are like swapping the bodies. They are living as the other person in a world they are not familiar with. Of course, they need to get used to this new life. Yumi needs to be the painter, and the painter needs to be a priest. Most importantly, they have to, of course, find out how to undo this magic. But at the same time, they will slowly discover the true nature of their world. What I can remember about this book is the setting of the painter's world. There are like neon light-ish setting which was cool, and then the noodle bar. When these painters are like off work, when they're feeling a bit down, they will go visit it, have a soup noodle, and then talk to each other and support each other. There are some heartwarming moments. There are also like some jokes or some funny moments when Yumi or the painter has to get used to a body they are not familiar with. And then they both exploring this new world from a very fresh perspective. Slowly these characters would develop their bonding. And then coming to the final battle, I still remember my mind screaming, Yumi! I still remember that moment. I also enjoy the character development in this book, Yumi with her choice, and then the painter with his trust. Overall, I find the whole story quite cozy, really heartwarming and immersive. It is definitely a fun and easy read. The remaining two recommendations is a bit different. They are still fantasy, but with a different take. The first one I have is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett, the first book of Shadow of the Leviathan series. Now this one is like a fantasy detective story in which we follow an investigator called Anna and her assistant called Dean. Dean is an engraver, meaning that with a stimuli, he can remember every detail in a crime scene. One day he was asked to investigate this mysterious death of a government official. After reporting to Anna about this crime scene, they have decided to move to another canton to have a more in-depth investigation. Throughout this investigation, we will meet different people. We will understand more about what is actually going on with the politics. Every time when there's like a crime, Dean was asked to go there and remember everything for Anna, and then he would report it back. Anna is also a very smart investigator, and she can always point out a new direction for this investigation. I do appreciate how interconnected the plot is. Every clue, every question we have in this investigation, we would definitely get an answer by the end of the book. I think in a detective story, this part has to execute well, and I think the Tainted Cup can do it. In a fantasy world, of course, this kind of murders will still got some like fantasy magical elements to it, but still, the deduction itself is not like over the top. Acting so many like boom, blah, and then like something like special like this happen, there is always a logical explanation about everything that had happened, which I totally appreciate. There are also chapters about Dean's disability and how being an engraver help or hinder it. All in all, if you're like me, love a detective story, I think you shouldn't miss this one out. The last one I have is a book that I recently finished, and I think it is so underrated. It is Strange Beasts by Susan J. Morris. It is a very spooky book, and yes, we are reading a spooky book for Christmas. It is like Sherlock Holmes meeting Dracula sort of detective story. This book was set in the 19th century Paris, in which we are following our main character, Samantha, who can channel into the mind of a monster and retrieve memory from it, and her mother is a Dracula killer. This time she was partnered with Helena Moriarty, the daughter of the infamous criminal mastermind rivalry of Sherlock Holmes, but all of the partners worked with Helena before are all now dead. Sam wanna work with Hal only because the case they are investigating seems to have more to do with her grandfather, who vanished 10 years ago. These murders they have to investigate all share the same pattern with how the victims were killed. It looks like they are killed by a werewolf. Together they will visit Paris and meet different people. They have to think about who to trust because they all look a bit mysterious or suspicious and looks like they all got some secrets. Sam herself also needs to be careful of Hal. Is she hiding something about the death of her previous partners, or is Sam also just like a pawn to the game that Hal is planning? So the goal of this detective story is to solve all these brutal, mysterious murders, find out who is the mastermind behind, as well as for Sam, try to think about is there any connection to the disappearance of her grandfather. I really enjoyed this detective story. It is certainly giving gothic vibe. I love exploring Paris with Hal and Sam. It is dangerous and you don't know who to trust. The chemistry between Sam and Hal works for me. On this journey, Sam was slowly opening up about her past and her power with Hal. Hal will also share what's being a morality gonna be like. And finally, I found one slow burn romance that is like for me. All in all, I love this pair of detectives. Good historical fantasy meets a detective story that is screaming, spooky, and gothic vibe. By the way, this one of course gonna contain some very gruesome graphic description about the victims of these murders. If you find they are too much for you, you need to think twice to pick this one up. Just a little warning here. So here are all the fantasy books I want you guys to pick up before the end of 2024. I hope you will find one that you're gonna enjoy from this list. So if you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I'll see you all real soon. Goodbye.